We need to talk.
We do?
I've been waiting to see who would open up that mailbox. You just walked into quite a story. Stories like this spread fear, and they're afraid of fear. But I don't fear fear. I'm gonna need you to go on record and tell me everything you know about
your manager.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
I work for making Pokemon listicles all day, okay?
Okay, you do that.
So after I made the video on the Super Mario movie and seeing the bar that could be set with the video game adaptation, I wondered if there were any more adaptations of a similar type that could meet the same caliber that the Mario movie reached, or at least come close to it in its success. Money! And with a bit of research, I found the perfect candidate. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Detective Pikachu. Back in 2019, some folks at Legendary Pictures, in collaboration with the Pokémon Company, decided to release their sci-fi live-action take on the popular video game franchise, with the main selling point of the film being the casting choice of Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu. And how well did it do, you may ask? Better than the Super Mario movie, and Nintendo didn't back this movie either. So here's what the synopsis reads. In a world where people collect Pokemon to do battle, okay, so far so good, a boy, the guy who plays him was 23 when he made this movie, comes across an intelligent, remember this, talking Pikachu who seeks to be a detective. Yes, first case, where's Ash Ketchum? And without further ado, let's watch the movie. So the movie starts out with this man-made Pokemon called Mewtwo break out of this unknown facility to chase after and fuck this ominous car who apparently belonged to Rhyme City detective and father of this guy, who is told by this guy that his father is presumed dead. But since no body was recovered, the PD basically says, yeah, it's not our problem. While searching for answers that could lead to his father's disappearance, he makes unwanted contact with a woman named Lucy Goosey, who is also trying to investigate his father's disappearance and clowns on him for not having a Pokemon partner. Tim ends up meeting a Pikachu in his father's apartment, who can apparently speak coherent sentences and not Pika Pika, which freaks him the fuck out. Oh, I know, Ryan Reynolds is a freaky individual. With little to no real formalities involved, Pikachu ends up convincing Tim that his father is probably still alive, since he was his father's Pokemon partner, and his existence proves that his father could have survived the crash. Desperate for leads, they turn to Lucy Goosey since she's the only one who has an inkling on the whereabouts of what happened to his father that night, which first leads them to committing arson against a mime, and then are forced into an underground street fight with a flamboyantly gay man and his Charizard who looks like they puffed the magic dragon, where they finally learn about Serum R, since when Pokemon get a whiff of these, they become rowdy as fuck. Hey Alejandro, can you sauce me some of that R? I have a date tonight. No? You're just gonna let everyone else breathe the fumes? Wow. Afterwards, Tim and Pikachu are brought by Latex Lily to totally not obvious bad guy who happens to be the mayor of Rhyme City, and explains that Serum R was traced back to his own son, the news boss guy, who then shows them with fancy schmancy holographic technology that Mewtwo is behind his father's devastating crash, wiping Pikachu's memory in the process, saying that if he found Mewtwo, he would find his father. Oh, what a cakewalk, right? Enlisting the help of Lucy again, oh god, she deduces that Serum R originated from this laboratory that was shown at the beginning of the movie, which they discover is home to knockoff Dr. Liao's experiments on Pokemon. And it is revealed here that Tim's father is the reason why Mewtwo was captured in the first place. Tim and the gang is ambushed when Lucy's boss finds out that she didn't show up for work, and unleashes the full extent of their experiments on our fellowship as they try to escape. Unfortunately, Pikachu is wounded by a pebble. Desperate to find a healer Pokemon, it ends up leading them directly to Mewtwo, who after healing Pikachu reveals that Pikachu was the one behind setting Mewtwo free at the beginning of the movie, which led to Tim's father's disappearance. But the vision is cut short as Bossman was able to seize the opportunity and recapture Mewtwo. With Pikachu now assuming that he betrayed Tim's father, he forfeits his trust towards Tim and returns to the wild, leaving Tim and Lucy on their own. But as Pikachu is beginning his walk of shame, he came across the same bridge the crash from earlier took place, and after gathering some clues, realized that Mewtwo was not behind the fatal crash. Rather, Mewtwo was trying to save them from assailants sent by a mystery man, and Pikachu attempts to go back to warn Tim. While Lucy tries to warn the news that her boss is experimenting on Pokemon, Tim goes to try and warn Howard that his son has possession of Mewtwo, to which he quickly realizes he fucked up. After transferring his consciousness to Mewtwo, he explains his diabolical scheme. He tricked Tim as to think Mewtwo would solve his father's disappearance, when in reality, he was the one behind his father's disappearance, and just wanted to recapture Mewtwo to spray them with Serum R, which he was also behind, by the way, as the only way to combine a human with a Pokemon is to put the Pokemon in an enraged enraged state. But Howard, Mewtwo with a moving mouth does not look right. Tim quickly realizes that he plans to use the ongoing Pokemon parade in downtown Rhyme City as a catalyst to repeating the process to the general public, and succeed in his diabolical plan he did. And now we have two annoying characters in one. Great. With that, the final showdown begins. Pikachu engages in one-on-one combat with cursed Mewtwo, and Tim, after realizing that his son was actually tied up in a closet and becoming confused, we find out who is really posing as the boss man himself, that Ditto. After getting shit on, Howard decides that now would be a good time to come back and taunt Tim, giving Pikachu the opportunity to distract Howard long enough for Tim to be helped out by Howard's real son and removing Howard's tether to Mewtwo, ending his twisted plans of a utopia. With Mewtwo now back in control, they cleanse the city of all ill effects imposed by Howard, and we get to finally see the full story of the vision Mewtwo attempted to show earlier. Sure, Pikachu helped Mewtwo escape, but Tim's father was also behind setting them free after he found out Howard's plans. In an effort to save his life after failing to stop the assailant Pokemon from crashing their car, Mewtwo took his body and put it in Pikachu, claiming that once he reunited with his son, he would be able to bring his father back. Why? Did he need his son's permission to save his life? Or did Mewtwo just want to guilt trip Tim for leaving his father when he was like 12. They just left it at this and didn't explain why. And the conclusions don't stop here. After Howard's arrest, Lucy excitedly tells Tim that she'll be promoted for her work in solving the case, and then she's never seen again. Then the movie ends with Tim about to take the train back home, but upon seeing that his father is Ryan Reynolds, he decides otherwise, expressing his interest in becoming a detective like him. And that's Detective Pikachu. Now let's read what people had to say about this movie, and I will give my all-encompassing review after. Stick around.
Ryan Reynolds is hot. Ryan Reynolds is beyond annoying. I don't know what's more cringe, these reviews or the fact that they're the first two reviews you see when you go on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm just gonna move on. It was entertaining and I would watch it again. The ending could have been better and instead have been set up for a second movie. Kind of what I said towards the end of that plot section. Yes, they could have definitely set up for a second movie, but I'm gonna be honest, with those actors, especially Lucy, I would not want to see a sequel, to be honest, and I don't think they have any plans of making one. They kind of just sort of dropped their characters at the ending. I don't think they had plans of making a sequel. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. This movie made me feel like I was in the Pokemon world. This movie was so cool, and the cocaine joke made me laugh so hard. I'm as confused as you are, don't worry. That I caused a cave-in in the mine I was in. Oh, that makes sense. He's playing with Steve. I love the adaptation of a great franchise. Finally, a video game movie that gets it right. Oh, what a perfect segue into what I was gonna say. With a film budget of $150 million US and a total box office of $433.2 million, as well as a 68 Rotten Tomato score and a 79% audience score, it's safe to say that Detective Pikachu is one of the highest rated and most accepted video game adaptations as a movie. But how about what I think about the characters in the film itself?
Remember how Tim at the end of the movie stated he wanted to be a detective? Well, quite frankly, he'd be the shittiest detective. The only leads you were able to get were because of Lucy, and if you got outplayed by a nutcase with a sus assistant, God help you in an actual case of murder and shit. You ain't cut out for this work, I'm sorry, Tim. You literally got your ass handed to you twice by the Cubone. Tim overall felt like a simple and basic character. Nothing about him really blew me away, as his whole persona was just the nerdy guy who gets made, but at the same time, he didn't stick out like a sore thumb like the next one I'm gonna talk about. Initially, Lucy Goosey just seemed like a cheesy Nickelodeon villain gone wrong, but over the course of this film, she somehow got worse. Not only did the writers decide to make her of all people the love interest, but her duck just made me want to uninstall my ears. Who the hell did they get to voice Psyduck, the droids from Star Wars? Psyduck, shut the fuck up. They also thought it would be a good idea to just drop the character after the conflict is done with one line of any sense of potential future relationship building that sounds more like a flaky promise. Whew. Okay, horrible character out of the way. Pikachu. While the synopsis of this film describes Pikachu as intelligent, this is far from the case. By intelligent, sure, they can say anything other than their name, but for heaven's sake, the whole introduction of Pikachu to Tim just made Pikachu seem like a dunce than anything. Okay, deep breaths. Whew. As for Ryan Reynolds, he was okay. He certainly was not hot in this, though. I'm gonna have to give the worst scene of this film to Lucy's introduction to Tim, which is also the intro of this video. If you watch the full unedited version of this, you will think you're watching a cheesy, low-budget Nickelodeon movie that rivals plethora of villains. However, I will have to give this film some credit where credit is due. The best scene in this film would have to be Tim's introduction and his attempt to catch a Cubone. This and the Mr. Mime scene were arguably the only times I truthfully laughed, but this scene I chose had arguably better and more tasteful humor, as well as the only time the main character uses a Pokeball in the entire film, which is surprising.
Overall, Detective Pikachu as a visual piece was absolutely stunning and unmatched to anything else prior in the Pokemon franchise, no doubt about that. And the one good thing I will give to this movie is Ryan Reynolds and Justice Smith's performances as Pikachu and Tim Goodman respectively. Not only do they have great chemistry as the lead roles, the humor on Ryan Reynolds' part seemed to be pretty witty, not this one, and Justice Smith serves as a great counterbalance to this train wreck. Storyline was great and quite memorable. Up until the ending. They absolutely fumbled the ending harder than Strange World did, and that's saying something. Dropping characters out of thin air, plotlines that make no sense, forced in dialogue, and contradicting messages, they had it all. It's almost like the writers outsourced their ending from Disney and proceed to get them high off their ass as well, if it wasn't enough. Can I confidently say that this is a good addition to the Pokemon franchise? Well, it's an addition alright. In addition to my mid-final ratings, it is without a doubt that I give Detective Pikachu a final rating score of 6 out of 10. CGI can't get you far when your ending is And with that, comment your thoughts. Leave a like, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later.
And if you think I'm a coward or I'd simply urge others on, I'll fight you right now.
Order!
Warren, you can judge the winner.
Mildly. We're trying to seek the truth.
Bird with a gavel? I'm sold.